Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. I guess it's time to go? Say goodbye to your friends. You have one new message, Oliver. First message. Hey there, Oliver, it's Mom. Violet's mom, obviously. I'm calling to let you know that, as of late, Violet hasn't been using her phone as much as she should. Normally, she at least texts me after she's taken her meds, but I received nothing for about a day or two. I don't know why she's deviating from a routine like this, but it's unacceptable, and I don't just mean for her. Olive, dear, I hope you are aware that I didn't permit you to live with my daughter for the sole reason of bolstering your own vain, romantic interests. I picked you because I assumed you were the best person for the job. If I'm not there, then you need to do your part to keep her on track. I understand the impulse to be young and stupid, but I have these systems in place for a reason. And if you're not going to protect her, then what good are you? Look, don't worry about calling me back. I'll likely be en route by the time you get this message. Just make sure she doesn't hit her head and we're fine. And for fuck's sake, have her do the dishes before I walk through that door. The girl cooks way too much for her own good. End of message. I can't really investigate the rest of the house. Violet's silver brick of a cell phone sits atop her desk. She's taken another step in isolating herself, it seems. That, or she just forgot to grab it on her way out the door. Either way, I won't force it upon her. I won't force anything on her. Even back in high school, she never forced me to get one of these. Hey, quit bugging him about it. Sometimes he needs to be alone. Oliver's just like that. It doesn't mean he hates us, obviously. Damn it, Violet. I never could have imagined that's all it would take for me to love someone. Guess I'm easy like that. Cell phones are nothing but a point of access. And without a point of access, everyone pretty much just assumes the worst. When was the first time any of you had a cell phone? As for me, I don't think I owned a cell phone until I had already graduated high school. And it wasn't like a personal choice on my part. It was, one, phones really weren't that common back then. I know, it makes me sound fucking ancient. But I mean, in general, unless you were like a doctor or a lawyer, or trying to think of something else like that, but yeah, unless you were like some sort of high-end professional, like needing to get called about like doing brain surgery or some shit, cell phones really didn't exist. I don't think I had and I will say this, if I had had the option to own a cell phone back in high school, I probably would have, but one, phones really didn't exist back then. And two, it would have been expensive. But yeah, Like, my house, we had... I remember around the time I was a senior in high school, I mean, we had one of those... We had a computer. Or was that not till the next year? I can't remember. It's either in my last year of high school or the year after high school. I think it was the year of high school. I think it was my last year of high school that my parents wound up getting a computer. It was, I think it had Windows 98 and had dial-up internet, so anytime you used the internet, you couldn't use phones because you used the phone line. And for the most part, there really wasn't anything online back then. I mean, Wikipedia didn't exist yet. YouTube didn't exist yet. I don't even remember if Google existed yet. I mean, you could look stuff up for, like, school. And you could, like, go on a site called Newgrounds and watch some funny animations, listen to good music, or, you know, play some silly little Flash games. Also, you could, like... There was things like... Not World of Warcraft, because I don't think World of Warcraft existed yet. Not even the first version. But there was a RTS, a real-time strategy game. There was Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, and StarCraft. You know, Protoss, and the Zerg. So, those were fun games. I think I remember Empire Earth 2. I think it was probably the only good one. Of course, different up. I'm trying to think what else there was. That's pretty much it. But yeah, we had a couple house phones. But heck, back then payphones were a thing, like everywhere. I remember there being payphones everywhere. Now, I don't think I've seen a payphone in over a decade. Heck, I imagine people would see a movie like the old Superman movies where you go into a telephone booth and get changed to Superman. I imagine a lot of people wouldn't even remember what a telephone booth is. But, yeah, I don't think I got my first cell phone until I was like 19 or 20. And even then, it didn't have any form of texting or anything. It was just a flip phone. It couldn't even connect to the internet. I don't think phones could connect to the internet back then, actually, if I remember. Yeah, so I don't think phones could connect to the internet. It was just... There was no texting. There was no internet. There was no calculator. There was no... I think there was a snake game. Like, you'd push up, down, left, and right, and you'd, like, move around, and you try to avoid the walls or hitting yourself, and you try to, like, get the little black square. It was, like, the level, like, fucking Pong. Pretty much. But yeah, I think when I was, like, 19, or 20, I got a cell phone. But it was just like a flip phone. Then I think back when I was like 23 or 24, I wound up getting my second phone, which had some function of texting. But it was like, you could maybe send a couple texts a day. And it was like, you didn't have a keyboard. You had just had your numbers. So like, say if you wanted a letter S, you'd have to push the number 7 4 times to be a letter S. And even then, you'd only send maybe a couple sentences a day. Then again, it would take about all day to type it out like that. And then I think I got the very first cell phone that could actually connect to the internet, even connect to like YouTube and stuff like that, and search on Google and search like phone numbers for like restaurants, and heck, it also like could take pictures and be a camera, and actually had legitimate fucking texting with actual, you know, keyboard, granted touchscreen, like most modern phones are now. But I think I was probably like 26, maybe, at that point, when I got the very first one that could do that. And even then, it really wasn't that good at it, but that was like 12 years ago, when phones started to become like little small computers. So nowadays you'd be like, oh, that's enough big computer for today. Now it's time to lay in bed and look at my little computer. And that's the thing, phones nowadays are little computers. It's nice to be like, hey, I'm thinking about going to this restaurant. It's like, what time does Popeye's Chickens open? But yeah, for the most part, phones really didn't exist in the past, and even then, it's not like I'd really have very many people to talk to. I'm antisocial. Also, it's like, one, I'm introverted, and two, why the fuck would anyone want to talk to me? So what if I were to drift, to float to a point where no one could touch me and slip away? Would anything really change? Would all the stuff I left on land with my friends suddenly lose meaning? Did Violet want to drift from us, or are we simply the ones that pushed her into the ocean? I hate these things so much, but I love my friends way more than that. And real love cannot exist without compromise. But being planted into social situations at the drop of a hat like that, is my brain strong enough to handle such a great compromise? And if not, then how the hell can I say I'm worthy of friends in the first place? How can I say that I'm worthy of love? It's like that, what is it, Invincible? You know, Invincible and Mark and his dad, and it's like the original meme is like, so how do I breathe in space? That's the neat part. You don't. It's like in video games like Dark Souls. At what point do I start being good at the game? That's the neat part. You don't. How do I know if I'm worthy and deserving of love? That's the neat part. You aren't. The cell phone, an efficient tool for an efficient world. Rockets for astronauts, test tubes for chemists, and cell phones for people. First time Violet's seen a rocket go up in months. Annie employing her favorite art done by Reese. She definitely does seem more tall, but I don't... Oh. Why did that... Okay, cool. I don't remember what the word abstruse means. I'm not even sure if I've even seen that word before. Does it just... Hey! Okay, I'm pretty sure this is Ashton's, right? Yep. Cool. Oh, I just... Neat. Take a sip of my 7-Up. Oh. Ah, nice and cold. I think I might get a pizza in a bit. Maybe go to Little Caesars. Have you guys ever had Little Caesars before? If not, what pizza do you guys normally eat? Okay, I think we're caught up on that. Nope, can't check the phone no more. Can I investigate more of house? Nope. Huh. How's the burger place in the ocean? Okay. Everything's just jumbling around. Okay, high school. Is it everyone's... Why? What is... What do you mean, Judith question mark? What do you mean, Judith question... Why is it purple? My muse Venus might not be able to fight in the traditional sense, but she can still help you guys out by offering a wide range of buffs and debuffs in battle. But how exactly do these status changes work in a physiological sense? Well, as with most things, this can be explained through a basic understanding of certain chemical components, as well as their effect on the body over time. What is happening? She reached out on the table, pulling out a test tube rack filled with powdery substances of varying color. Is it just cocaine? What is happening? These samples are extracted from Venus last night. What do you mean extracted? What is happening? From a purely cellular point, they essentially function like haploids and are released into the air by my muse. I don't know what that is. Not unlike the spores of a mushroom, really. So your muse is drugs? However, unlike mushroom spores, these haploids have several unique characteristics that make them ideal for a combat setting. Is this Pokemon now? First is the method of transfer. Unlike the somewhat lax dispersal of traditional spores, these cells are shot out in a concentrated stream of compressed air. That doesn't sound safe. This allows Venus to essentially target whoever is getting buffed or debuffed. Secondly, the haploid cellular membrane dissolves instantly after coming in contact with almost any oily substance, namely the skin. This is why the buffs Venus gives you always work, but depending on the enemy's physiological makeup, debuffs may not be that effective at all. What's more, membrane of Venus's haploid cells is coated... Your muse is a hedgehog, right? I can't remember. Is it a Vileplume? I don't... Does anyone remember what a Vileplume is? Like, it's Gen 1 Pokemon. Here's a question. Are there ever going to be another generation of Pokemon, or did they decide they're going to stop at, like, the 2000? Completely unique to her. I'm still looking into it, but I'm pretty sure this powder rapidly expedites your metabolic rate. So in layman terms, these buffs are fast-acting and mostly effective on all types of organisms. Which brings me to the third distinction. This one. This is really something, Olive. Why are you calling me Olive? Instead of genetic material, these haploids carry fast-acting chemical components that can affect the target almost immediately after making contact with the skin. Stimulants... And now, I know that means a pain-killing agent. I just can't pronounce it. Okay, stimulants, I guess, make sense for a combat situation, but even then, wouldn't we just get a heart attack? We're like, you have now received 20 Red Bulls. It's like, that might be a bit much. I can't pronounce analgesics. Okay, no. Analgesics. But yeah, it's pain-killing agents. Hallucinogens. What? I assume that's supposed to be a debuff, but it really doesn't matter. Venus can get in your system almost as soon as I'm aware that you're in trouble. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that sweet, guys? She begins pulling out the test tubes and holding them up for me to see. First up is a glass tube of hot pink powder. Epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, a common stimulant. That is not a common stimulant! I mean, it's a fucking stimulant, alright. It's kind of like originally, like when energy drinks first became a thing, the only energy drinks that existed were Red Bull, Full Throttle, and Rockstar. And there were no flavors. Why am I hearing a heartbeat? Why is it speeding up? But there were no flavors of Red Bull. one thing initially is pretty cool is if you take normal Red Bull, mix it with strawberry soda and ginger ale. Why is the background dying? I'm just saying, the original energy drinks, like the old school Full Throttle when it first came out, technically tasted different. Same with the original Rockstar, but mainly Full Throttle and Rockstar tasted different back when they first came out. But they also had like off-brand of ephedra inside that, which I don't know the actual chemical compounds of ephedra and how it was different from normal ephedra. But the point is, it was too much for some people's bodies to handle, and some people were dying of heart attacks. So they removed that stuff, changed the recipe, and lowered the caffeine. But epinephrine, yes, it's definitely a stimulant, but it's not a common stimulant. There is no situation where I should go to a gas station and buy an energy drink that, somehow would have the effect of giving me an epinephrine. Now, obviously, yes, increased caffeine will lower your body's sensitivity to adenosine, which is a chemical in the brain that makes you feel sleepy. Which, again, I feel like things have changed over time. Like, I feel like energy drinks originally caffeine gave you energy. I feel like my original understanding of caffeine is that it gave you energy, but now it just, like, I think it's ADP or ADT, or it's a chemical called adenosine that builds up in your brain while you're awake. And as that chemical builds up, it slows down your neural processes. It makes you tired. And so technically it means caffeine doesn't give you energy. It just turns off or turns down the chemical that tells you you're tired. So technically, under this circumstance, it would mean caffeine, even if you have a ton of caffeine, you're technically still tired. You just can't feel it anymore. It's kind of like painkillers. If you were to get, stabbed or something, the painkiller might make you stop feeling pain from it, but you're still fucking stabbed. It didn't heal your wounds. It's not a fucking health potion from fucking Final Fantasy. It just turns off the chemicals that tell you you're hurt. You're still hurt. Same thing with... But I feel like in the past, caffeine originally was supposed to give you energy. But yeah, apparently it just turns off adenosine. So technically, if you have caffeine in your system, you're still actually tired. It's just the chemical in your body that tells you you're tired is turned off or turned down. But I'm just saying this. Obviously, different things will stimulate, not, even though it's kind of terrible I'm using the same word again. You're describing stimulate by using stimulate. That's not how you define things. I'm just saying this. Obviously, different types of foods and chemicals will increase your natural production of epinephrine. But there's a difference between, eating something like, okay, you had a lot of bacon with a lot of fat, which will help your body to produce more, dopamine and hormones. Because your body uses that, your body uses that stuff for production. And, of course, your body senses that stuff in your system, so it's like considered a signal to tell your organs to start producing certain things in response. But there's a difference between ingesting something that tells your body to produce something as opposed to just straight up taking it. And normally, isn't the only way you would administer adrenaline is like a needle or something? There's not any sort of edible version of adrenaline, is there? I mean, obviously people say, oh, well, caffeine. Yes, caffeine will increase your body's natural production of adrenaline, or even will signal your body, because there's two ways to look at it. I mean, it could signal your body to produce adrenaline. It could also signal your body to release stored adrenaline, because your body more than likely will already have adrenaline made, but isn't actively releasing it to your body. It's kind of like your liver. I'm pretty sure, is it your liver or your pancreas that makes insulin? But you can have different things that would signal to your body to produce insulin, but there would also be different things that would be your body would more likely have insulin stored somewhere in your body and then releases it to the rest of the body. So you guys know what I'm saying better than I can say it. But then there's also like people who take injections for like diabetes, putting insulin straight into their body via an injection. So I mean, I guess there's a difference between, say, one, ingesting something that increases your body's natural ability to produce adrenaline. Heck, there's a thing called adrenal fatigue, where if you're somebody who's stressed out all the time, your body keeps producing so much adrenaline and cortisol that, one, your body's ability to produce is a bit weakened, it's wore out, and two, your body may be overwhelmed by it. It's like, technically, you need a small bit of adrenaline at all times. Like, your body is supposed to be producing a very, very small amount of adrenaline at all times. Technically, you're always supposed to have, at all times, a tiny bit of adrenaline inside your system in order to, function normally. That being said, of course, during stressful situations, your body produces more. And of course, in very dangerous situations, your body produces a lot. However, some people, one, may not be able to produce that much, or they may be in adrenal fatigue from chronic stress, so that their body has been chronically producing too much, to the point that now your body is struggling to even produce the basic amounts it needs for day to day, so you're really exhausted and feel terrible. It also means in case of an emergency, you really don't have that availability anymore. Plus, constant overuse of, fight or flight response psychologically, burnout is a thing. Not only is it a physiological response, but, your body gets overwhelmed by it. Like, technically, adrenaline can make you stronger, like in the huge extremes. But whether it be a moderate amount that's constant or a huge, huge burst all at once, one, yeah, you can push more strength through your body, but you're more likely to hurt yourself. The other issue is, while your organs do need a small bit of adrenaline at all times to really properly function, as well as your ability to focus or even feel emotions, the other thing is that if you were to have way too much adrenaline at all times, you can become emotionally fatigued, and you can even cause damage to your internal organs. More importantly is this: too much stimulant of any kind, especially too much adrenaline, and heck, there are people that, will get, scared or something, or startled, or upset, or really angry, and in their extreme emotional state, their body will produce adrenaline. But they may not be able to handle the adrenaline overload. Like, their sense of time might change. They might feel dizzy. They might get lightheaded. You might have people whose hands and arms might start shaking uncontrollably. Some people might actually faint from too much adrenaline or get sick. But yeah, in general, there are some people it's an increased heart rate and everything. So the person might get lightheaded, they might get dizzy, they might have chest pains, and they might feel like their heart is just beep, 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 to where they, instead of getting a burst of energy, they just sort of have to stop and they can't function. Like, I mean, they're not dead, but they're just sort of standing still, feeling like they're about to pass out. I'm just saying this. I don't think there's a way of administering adrenaline via some chemical on a skin or something you eat. I'm pretty sure the only way to do that is via injection, but we are talking like magical Pokemon stuff. I'm just saying, even if you had a Pokemon that could give you epinephrine, I feel like that would be something, whether it be spores or like an edible or something, I don't know. I feel like that would be extremely dangerous. I feel like even under the supervision of a doctor, I feel like that would be very dangerous to a human body to use very, carelessly. Works best on Ash and Andy, boosts offensive power and evasion, a classic buff. Next to vial, filled to brim with light blue power. Light blue power instead of powder. This one I always end up having to use an Emil. It's basically morphine. Okay, I can understand like people are getting really badly hurt if we're fighting demons and shit. But again, morphine is something that should only be administered by a doctor and only if the person's in a tremendous amount of pain. And even then, you can't be administering someone morphine too much. I mean, one, it's very addictive. And two, whether it be used too much at one time or used over a prolonged period of time, it has serious health side effects, could even kill you. Especially you have to like measure that stuff out based on body weight and shit. Nothing too special. And I'm pretty sure morphine's meant to be used on people like in a hospital bed. I couldn't imagine using morphine on somebody that's supposed to be doing something like physically active, like fucking fighting, and using it on them and there's another thing, using it on them like a daily basis. Okay, everyone's like, you're thinking too much about this. I'm just saying, like, this, whether it's adrenaline or outright morphine, wouldn't this be killing people? Like, the human bodies, I mean, I know we're resilient and stuff, but this is not even remotely safe to be doing. Oh, 7-Up. She grabs nothing too special, pretty much just to make sure he can take a hit or two without falling over. What is he being hit by? A fucking truck? Oh, right, we're fighting demons. She grabs a lime green test tube and holds it up to the light, grinning. Must be some 7-Up. Let me drink some 7-Up. Ah, it's delicious. What? Your mother, Dolly, is familiar with this one, I'm sure. What? Dimethyltryptamine, more commonly referred to as DMT. Okay, DMT is a naturally occurring substance in your brain. Technically, your brain produces some variation of THC as well. I mean, technically, most things that are air quotes drugs, your body produces naturally in order for your body to live. Same thing with dimethyltryptamine or DMT. I mean, technically, your brain produces that stuff. I'm pretty sure every human brain has to have a little bit of that at all times, or else I don't think the human brain would work. I'm pretty sure we would just die. That being said, it's also said that during sleep or near-death experiences or meditative states, or sometimes the human brain just sort of starts producing more for some reason. You know, this is a naturally existing chemical in the human brain. The human brain needs DMT in order to function. But of course, your body produces what it's supposed to need. Some people, of course, have higher amounts than others. But even then, even the highest amount that a naturally existing person has is absolutely nothing compared if somebody were to use it as a drug. And of course, hallucinogens, like, there's different classifications of drugs, which I know it's kind of odd that I look into this stuff given the fact that I don't do any drugs. Heck, I've never smoked anything in my fucking life, and I've never done any illegal drugs. And in general, I've only ever used any sort of chemicals as doctors have prescribed them to me. Aside from that, I mean, if I get sick, I'll take like some Dayquil or something. Do people even still sell Dayquil? Is that still a thing? There's also NyQuil. Does that still exist? I haven't had to use that stuff in such a long time. Nowadays, I just sort of just take a Tylenol and a melatonin if I'm feeling sick. But Also, in this story situation, this implies that our mom does a shit ton of DMT. That... Huh. Also... Our dad's a jackass, and our emotional peculiarities, we do have some emotional issues that our mom also has, and dad's an asshole. I'm just saying this. The human brain produces DMT, but the difference between the person who has the lowest amount of DMT and the person who has the highest is basically nothing compared to the amount that would flood your brain if you were to use, the actual drug form of this stuff. And so, I mean, it's like saying, okay, this person has a couple grains of table salt, this person has a dozen grains of table salt. And then we're just comparing it to a whole fucking canister of fucking salt. So it's a huge, huge, huge difference. The other thing is this. There's different types of drugs of every classification. And I find it fascinating to read and understand, just what it does to a human brain. I just like to read. But, technically there's different types of drugs, like DMT, psilocybin, THC, I think would all be classified as hallucinogens. Which, same with technically as LSD, but while they're all technically the same category, it's a huge difference. It's like also saying a difference between, caffeine's a stimulant, but so is cocaine. I mean, heck, so is meth, right? I'm pretty sure meth's a stimulant. And then, technically you have heroin, opium, morphine, but also there's, Tylenol, ibuprofen, Advil, technically same classification. Then there's, probably the two most dangerous drugs that a person could probably use would be dissociatives and deliriants. Those would probably be the most dangerous things a person could use, and probably the most likely to either kill you or give you permanent issues. And also, in general, would probably be the most dangerous and unpleasant in every way. Now, of course, there's uses for those drugs, namely in hospitals or in small doses, some of them can help people with allergies. And, let's see, some can be used, I think, to deal like antibiotics sort of stuff. So that if you're getting really sick, a doctor can put a little bit in your IV drip, and it can help your organs fight off an infection so you don't die. I know a lot of people are concerned really about a chemical called fentanyl, but there's also nitazines and xylazines, which are an off-brand version of that sort of thing. I don't know how to describe the difference. But technically, nitazines are fentanyl, but 1,000 times stronger, but they're less common for people to have hold of that sort of stuff. Technically, it's an artificial chemical that was made by... They were trying to find a more effective way to make anesthetics for doctors. The problem is nitazines are too strong. And like I said, you have to have a nurse, measure out and dilute it in a saline solution to apply it to a person. And the problem is you have to consider weight, you have to consider what other drugs somebody's on. What if the person's on heart medication? And what if they have an underlying genetic problem where they're more predisposed to having a stroke? Or what if they're having a certain type of surgery where they might, have to have a blood transfusion? It's just things like nitazines. It's just the margin for error is just so narrow that they decided that it's too dangerous to use even in a hospital setting. And that's the thing in general, is just... It's amazing that humanity is so intelligent that we've been able to figure these things out. And it's amazing that we have these things available. Obviously, if you're going to have surgery, you need to be able to knock people out for surgery. One, so they don't feel pain, but also, you don't want somebody to be awake while you're like messing with their internal organs. You know, even if it didn't hurt, that would be very like, traumatizing. Like even if it wasn't physically painful, more than likely they would not be staying still. And even if you strap them to stay still, they would be very psychologically fucked up from it. It's not healthy. But even then, you know, doctors have machines to monitor your heart rate and your blood pressure, and they have, in case anything ever goes too much one way or the other, they have other chemicals to counteract other chemicals. But yeah, I'm just saying, like I feel like DMT would be something that like while it's a naturally produced, I mean technically, you know, pain-killing agents are a naturally existing thing in your body too, and your body can do that naturally. It's just not to the extreme that like morphine can. But too much of that stuff, like your lungs will stop working, and even then, that stuff's extremely addictive. So, one, I don't even know if the fucking Persona World game thing ever happened, or if that's just in Oliver's head. And even if it is happening, I mean, at this point, you're mentioning that you have given shit tons of basically cocaine to Andy and Ashton. That, I feel like, wouldn't that cause, like, massive problems with their dopamine? And I know they said, oh, technically adrenaline. I'm pretty sure giving someone, like, wouldn't that, like, fried their hearts? Like, wouldn't that kill people if you used it all the time? And if you're, like, using morphine on Emil all the time, then wouldn't he be addicted at that point? Heck, at this point, I'm worried about what's in the cookies. What's in the macaroons? Also, why is Mom doing DMT? Where is she getting it from? This is Florida. Drugs don't exist in Florida. Also, is it possible for someone to die of an overdose of DMT? Like, I mean, I guess maybe if you have a really bad trip, you have a heart attack, but I mean, technically, like I said, this is a chemical your body produces naturally, and in certain states of mind, like sleep and dreams and stuff, and sometimes if you're just relaxed or in a meditative state, your body will produce a little bit, but not nearly as much as if you were taking it artificially. My head itches. But I'm just saying, one, whether it be from a large dose or a chronic overuser, but I would assume most people that would, air quotes, use DMT, while that would still probably be considered an illegal drug, I would assume anybody that messes with that stuff, I think Terrence McKenna did a bunch of that in mushrooms. If anybody remembers that guy. But I don't know if that causes problems for people. Like, couldn't someone die from that? Can it cause health issues? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Now, me, I can't say I'd ever be interested in doing any sort of psychedelic just because I don't think certain parts of my mind should be able to... I'm just saying I have some fucked up dreams and nightmares, so I'd rather not see that stuff in my waking life. Very popular with the sit on the bench and think about it, our place in the universe crowd. Isn't that just people that smoke marijuana? Like, while I'm familiar with the concept of DMT and psilocybin, I'm pretty sure most people that smoke like marijuana don't have access to that stuff, right? Then again, I'm not, a person who uses drugs, so I really don't know. I'm just somebody who likes reading a lot. I like reading, though mainly light novels and manga. For obvious reasons, I tend to avoid using such strong psychedelics against our enemies. Can you imagine if I misfired something like that and it hit one of you? It would be an absolute disaster. Still, it's there if we ever need to trap something in its own mind for a couple minutes or so. Of course, to them it would feel like they've been trapped inside their head for months, but that much is obvious. Such a strange debuff. Anyways, I'm sure you get the point. Venus shoots chemicals, and those chemicals do stuff. I hope by now it's clear how useful I can be to you. So you will... I didn't get to read all that. Will the log thing show that, or do I need to pause that in the video? The already long video. Okay. We're in a sitcom. Judith and I are watching a movie together like normal, while snacking on some powdered macaroni. What do you mean powder? Like powdered sugar? Cocoa powder? Damn it. Got to pause it in the video in order to read what was said. Journal. Moms. Miss Lawrence stopped by the house before we left for church this morning and handed off some stuff to my mom. They made some stupid joke in the door about how Sunday is the day of rest, and laughed in that shrill way they do. It's weird that Miss Lawrence never laughs that way around me and Violet. I think my mom paid her in 20s this time, but I'm not... Oh, that's where she fucking gets... Right! Miss Lawrence was supposed to be a chemist at one point. Violet's mom is a drug dealer? Afterwards, she spun the bag, and she's a school teacher, and around her hand, and asked if I wanted any after church. Wait, what? You're offering whatever this is to me? She said it would help me think straight. I told her that Judith and I had plans after church, and she backed off, same as always. How long is it going to be before she slips some of that crap in one of my drinks just to see what happens? At least things are safe at Judy's place. One thing I have to worry about there is overdosing on sugar. I do have sugar in my tea. Okay, and of course soda has sugar. Okay, so apparently prom is the thing I need to go to now? Judith asked me after church what my plans were for prom now that Violet and me are dating. I didn't even know that was a required thing. The whole concept of a school dance just seems loud. It is... Granted, I've been to concerts and I enjoy concerts, but it's also really, really anxiety. She kept pushing how important it was, though. When I told her how I didn't have enough money to go, she said she would use her connection with the student council to get us tickets. Then she asked me what kind of suits I like to wear. When I asked why I couldn't just wear what I would normally wear at church, she didn't even say anything. She just stood up and grabbed her keys. Now she's talking with some guy in the mall about a suit while I wait for her at the food court. This is just going to be an hour afternoon, I guess, it seems. Drew's really determined to help me with this stuff for some reason. I guess that's just what friends do. Side effects.